Welcome to playwrights, directors, lighting, costume, scene, and sound designers. We're going to talk about these image makers in the theater. You don't hear a lot about them, but I just wanted to give you a quick overview of them. And at the end of each section, you are welcome to stop and maybe come back to it at the end of playwright or director or lighting, scene, costume, and sound. I hope you enjoy this little backstage look at the people who make theater work, and let's move on. A playwright's script is more than words on a page. It's a blueprint of a special kind of experience that's created to appeal as much to the eye as it is to the ear. As Tennessee Williams said, he's a playwright, the printed script of a play is hardly more than an architect's blueprint of a house not built. This is the playwright's personal vision, and it actually expresses some aspect of reality, and it's a search for the human truth as perceived by the playwright only. Now, the script is the starting point for a theatrical production. However, it has to start within the playwright's mind, with an image or an idea. And the best example that I seem to come up with all the time is called 6 Degrees of Separation. And that was started by a story that came out of New York, where this young man pretended to be Sidney Poitier's son, and he went to someone's house in New York and pretended to know their son and be Sidney Poitier's son, and they just accepted him into their lives. And a playwright saw that and surmised from that that we are all 6 degrees from each other of knowing everyone in the world. And now we have a television show based on that. And so for that particular playwright, that was the unusual character and the action that developed around that person. But all kinds of ideas come from playwrights. What makes a playwright's work so intricate is that they provide us a fresh perspective and a new vision. The other playwright I think that does that is your comic writer, because they give us this microcosmic look at ourselves, and it also makes us laugh at ourselves at the same time. The thing that makes a playwright both central and peripheral to the theater production is that once they write that script, that original work is always theirs. And the way we work in the United States, they'll always get some kind of performance rights from any production company doing that script. But once they hand it over, they're no longer involved. They become peripheral. They become outside of their script, and a director then interprets their words. Now, in the early days, I want to say all the way up probably through the mid-50s, the playwright sat with the director, and the director would say, okay, I need this part rewritten, and then a playwright would leave and come back with the play rewritten. But now we've since changed that because there are so many productions throughout the country and throughout the world of one particular script. Basically, the playwright needs 3 tools. The tools are plot, character, and language. And the whole entire building has to have a conflict. If you remember when I talked earlier about Aristotle 6, the conflict and the events have to be compelling. We're not going to want to watch somebody in a play that's in their house and cleaning, and then the husband comes in, and then the kids come in, and they all sit down and have dinner, and then they watch television and go to bed. For us, that is not what we want to see. It is that microcosm of what happens in our lives. And the thing that makes plays so much more interesting, I think, than movies, with a movie I can watch it over and over and over again, and with a play I can watch that same play, and we bring the characteristics of ourselves. So as you, the audience, you bring what has happened in your day, and then the actors bring what has happened in their day, and you never see the same production twice. Have you ever wondered why playwright, the last part of it's spelled W-R-I-G-H-T? Well, it comes from the meaning of right, meaning builder of. So a playwright is a builder of plays, just like a Wainwright is a builder of ships. So that comes very, very far back, and so we never corrected that. Never let your spell check correct it W-R-I-T-E, because that would be an incorrect spelling. Now, the thing about a playwright's tools, those three that I told you, is it has to be performable. Now, in the Romantic period, which I'm sure you haven't read about, but if you have, they wrote such long plays, such difficult plays, they couldn't be performed on stage. And it has to be compressed in time. Nobody wants to come and see a play that's going to last 5 or 6 hours. Usually an average play is going to last you about 2 hours, 2.5 hours max. And it has to be intense, has to be believable. The characters have to be multifaceted, and it has to be complex, because otherwise we're not going to believe it. I think we buy the things on television because the commercials break them up, but basically in a 30-minute sitcom with 6 minutes of commercials, which means we only have 24 minutes, sometimes 23 minutes of actual acting, they're happy. There's a problem. Everybody gets excited. It's solved. We're done. The next image maker that we are going to discover and talk a little bit about is the director. The stage director unifies all the production elements, and I'll talk about some of the ways how they do that, and I'll give you a little bit of a historical perspective. During the first half of the 19th century, actor-managers ran the show. Now, an actor-manager directed, produced, and at times wrote the play. They also did some of the scene design and made sure that they were always in a limelight type of position. Because first of all, the actor-manager was an actor first, and then everything else had to revolve around them. There's one particular actor-manager was David Garrick, and he was one of England's most successful actor-managers. And he did maintain the highest standards in making sure that all of the production was unified. However, he was the exception to the rule. And as the theater began to grow in number, it started to worry theater people that the actor-manager type of actor was getting out of hand, and so the person that really changed that was the Duke of Saxe-Meiningen. In 1866, Duke George II of Saxe-Meiningen, he was from Germany, the modern director began to emerge. First of all, he exercised what we call a central artistic discipline. What do I mean by that? He looked at the entire production, the costumes, the lighting, the scene design, the acting, and one of the major things that he brought in was the fact that he brought in a company of actors that worked together all the time, but the actor-manager was not within it. The director was standing out, watching all of the production elements come together, and he also was the first one to develop ensemble acting. And he built his own furniture. He emphasized historical dramas and historical accuracy, realism, particularly in costumes and settings. And there was a focus and composition, and he was really renowned, I should say, for his crowd scenes and his ensemble work. So we really haven't changed much from the Duke of Saxe-Meiningen, and he was considered our first modern director. Overall, the practices implemented by the Duke of Saxe-Meiningen continue today. The director has two basic charges: to implement a unified vision within the finished production and to lead others toward the ultimate actualization. What do I mean by that? It's just to make sure that the production is performed. To meet these charges, the director must organize his or her vision. They must decide upon the interpretation of the play and work with the playwright, if possible. Doesn't usually happen unless you're working on Broadway and the playwright is right there with you. You have to coordinate with designers and technicians in planning the production, cast and rehearse the actors, coordinate all the elements into a finished production. And I think the most important thing the director has to do is look at how they cast the actors, because not only is it their ability to act, but their physical appearance has to match the relationship of the character, unless this director has this clear view of trying to cast against type. Now, Robert Cohen describes traits that a director should look for in an actor, and those are believability, the able to adapt into the character, and the ability to be real. Those are the major things that we look for in an actor, or that's what a director looks for in an actor. Now, there are three basic types of director. There is the autocratic director who looks at the script, tries to maintain what the playwright wants. All of the artists, the actor, the designers, the sound, costume, lighting designers, they are all servants to his concepts. He's not looking for a collaborative approach. He or she's not looking for a collaborative approach. They have their vision in their brain, and they want everyone else to acquiesce to that vision. The second type of director is collaborative. Now, this coordinator, they limit their own vision, and they bring their major vision to the table, but what they really want is they want to see this collaborative effort that makes a better vision for the actual theater production. So a collaborative director is a creative coordinator, and they limit their own vision. That type of director is the kind of director that I am, because I really have a vision of what I want, but I think that a synergy happens, because when people get together and they start brainstorming, you really do most of the time get to come up with a better vision. The third director is the improvisational director. They're more of a guide, and what they might come in is with a vision. However, they might have an improvisational, and when I say improvisational effect, they might want to stop the script and try things outside of the box. Not to say that every director that's in this will not do that, but the improvisational director is one that really wants to create things as they go. And I think it depends on you as an actor of what kind of director that you would want to work with. Now, I have mentioned these responsibilities earlier, but I didn't really have them on a slide, so I wanted to be able to talk about them. The director, first of all, has to analyze the script and look at the play structure and the meaning, because if the director doesn't understand the script, they can't make choices. They can't even choose character. They have to know about the play. They have to understand each character in terms of the script and the demand that the characters are going to put on the actor. They also have to envision the mood and the atmosphere of the play. They have to look at the theatrical space, and they have to also hold auditions and cast the actors, looking for both the physical and the verbal action of the actors. Before rehearsals begin, the director is going to meet with the designers, and at this time the director will not only promote his or her vision, but most directors are going to listen to the ideas from the other artist. This action creates a highly creative intercourse, results in a compromise which is often better than what one original person could come in and really do. Ultimately, the director decides upon the interpretation of the script. The next thing they do is they have to rehearse the actors. Now, in professional theater, rehearsing of the actors, 2 to 3 weeks. In educational theater, it's usually a 6-week rehearsal period and a 6-week build. But imagine in a professional house that you will take 2.5 to 3 weeks to rehearse and build a performance, and it's usually going to run about 6 weeks. In educational theater, they'll do a 6-week rehearsal with about a 2-weekend run. So within all of this, at the very end, they have to coordinate all the production elements of the play: the lighting, the scene design, the costuming, the sound design if they're dealing with sound. Because essentially, you don't want the costumer to have red costumes on a red set with red furniture and red lighting, because that would defeat the purpose of where your production is going to go, unless, of course, that is your vision. Now, the director has many assistants, but the production stage manager is their main assistant. There's assistant directors that might do voicing or language or any of those other things or research, but this is the person that stays with you throughout the production. And when you leave, this is the person that stays. They schedule rehearsals, and they compile and maintain a prompt book. A prompt book has all of the blocking, the lighting cues, the sound cues, the scene changes, the costume changes, all are contained within one book. And the reason why you want that is because if anything happens to the stage manager, that prompt book will get someone through the show because of all the lighting cues and sound cues and all of the other cues that are maintained in that. In addition, the production stage manager coordinates the director's work within the rehearsals. And at the end, see, when the show opens, the director walks away from the show. It is no longer their show. The person who has full responsibility of running the show after it has opened is the production stage manager. And if they're touring with it, then if something happens to an actor and there's an understudy, then they're the ones who rehearse the understudy and incorporate them into the show. So whatever show, no matter who the director is, you want your production stage manager is as important as your director.